Brothers and sisters, welcome to day 3 of our Advent series. So, in the last 2 days, we spoke about St. Faustina, outlining for us that at the heart of our spiritual life should be a fundamental desire to seek God, to seek holiness. So if that's first established, then we're going to ask ourselves, how can I become holy? What can I do that will increase my love for God? And St. Faustina says that basically our path to holiness is the shortest path is to be faithful to God, to be faithful in a way of obedience to His Holy Spirit, to His voice, to His prompting in our life, to, basically our recognition of the good things to do. When we do good, we would become like God. We'll walk in His path. We'll become holy. And so today now we want to, first of all, establish that, the work of holiness, the work of being faithful to God is really God's work. And when we talk about the work of holiness, we're talking about the work of the Holy Spirit. We're talking about grace. We're talking about God's way of perfecting us. So the first thing we have to grapple with and come to realize is that holiness is not me setting off a certain plan of life only and just sticking to it and persevering in it. While these things are important, that the fundamental truth about holiness is that it's a work of the Holy Spirit, that the task of holiness is beyond us. It's only God, right? Only God can bring this about. Remember, Jesus said that apart from me, you can do nothing. St. Paul says, I can will what is right, he says, but I cannot do it. In other words, unless he has the grace. So, the primacy of grace. We looked at this when we looked at the contemplative series on contemplation, that one of the truths, the deep truths of contemplation is to recognize that there's a primacy of grace that brings us to that deeper level of prayer. Here's a quote by Saint Louis-Marie de Montfort, the great Marian saint, great lover of Mary, whose consecration to Our Lady that many people do. He says, "What an admirable work! Dust changed into light, filth into purity, sin into holiness, the creature into the Creator, and man into God. Admirable work, I repeat, but a work that is difficult in itself and impossible for unaided nature. Only God by His grace, abundant, extraordinary grace, can accomplish it. And the creation of the whole universe is not such a surpassing masterpiece as this." Many of the saints, and Thomas Aquinas would say that grace, a soul being sanctified by God, a soul being transformed by grace, is a masterpiece beyond our understanding. It's more important, it's more precious than the entire creation we see. One soul created anew in Jesus Christ, raised into the new creation, raised into Jesus' new humanity, raised into this adoption of being a child of God by the power of grace, is more beautiful than anything you've seen in creation. It's a whole new creation. But this is only the work of the Holy Spirit. Only the Holy Spirit can baptize us and transform us. Yes, He uses priests, He uses deacons. Yes, He uses lay people in an emergency to baptize. But through that instrumentality, yes, we say yes, our freedom is being used, but only God at the end of the day could reach into a soul, transform it in baptism, and elevate it to a whole new level of being. As Saint Louis-Marie de Montfort says, as dust is changed into light, filth into purity, sin into holiness, the creature into the Creator, meaning that we become partakers of God. So only the Holy Spirit knows how to do this. Only God can convert us into His light to prepare us for Him, to be with Him for all eternity. So we have to be convinced of this at the very beginning. And this obviously follows on, that if this is the work of the Holy Spirit, then it's very important to follow His promptings, to be faithful to the Holy Spirit. I once read that the Holy Spirit is the artisan, the craftsman of Christ. The Holy Spirit crafted Christ in the womb of Mary. you know, and we are in the mystery of Christ. The whole Christ includes all of his members, all those who've been baptized into him, his whole church, and that is the Holy Spirit who unites us all together in an incredible spiritual bond that we don't see with our eyes, but we know by faith because of revelation. Jesus told us that we're going to be bonded together by this incredible new reality called the church. So Saint Jacques Philippe's Saint Jacques, maybe he'll be a saint one day. Father Jacques Philippe's point is that, you know, that we need to realize that we can't save ourselves, you know, by ourselves alone, that it is primarily the work of grace. But yes, we have to cooperate with it. So we do own and participate in our own salvation. But it's God's work, first and foremost. And he says we do not have to become saints by our own power. We have to learn how to let God make us into saints. I love that. And that's why being faithful to the Holy Spirit is important. Let God shape you. Let God prompt you and move you. Only God can get to the bottom of our defects and our limitations in the field of love.